UFC Vegas 102. Main event, Jared Cannonier vs. Gregory Rodriguez. I'm picking Gregory Rodriguez to win. He's younger, bigger, and carrying strong momentum into this fight. His aggressive pressure will be the key against the slowing Jared Cannonier, who, at 40, is coming off two tough losses. Even in his recent wins over Vettori and Strickland, the pace was measured, with no one pressing the action. Against Imavov and Baralho, he struggled with opponents who applied pressure, and I see Rodriguez doing the same. Expect him to push forward and take control. Co-main event, Calvin Kattar vs. Youssef Zalal. I'm picking Youssef Zalal to win. He's well-rounded and can hang with Calvin Kattar on the feet, but his biggest advantage will be on the ground. Kattar has shown vulnerability to control, as we saw when Aljamain Sterling outgrappled him. On top of that, Kattar is on a 3-fight losing streak and suffered a major knee injury about 2.5 years ago. Tough to bounce back from, especially at 37 years old. Zalal has the skills and momentum to capitalize on these factors. Ismail Bonfim vs. Nazim Sadykhov. I'm siding with Nazim Sadykhov in this matchup. He's technical enough to avoid Bonfim's heavy shots, which tend to be a bit telegraphed at times. While Bonfim has power, his last performance against a 41-year-old Vince Pichel wasn't impressive. He couldn't put him away, and Pichel's footwork and technical striking kept him out of danger. Sadykhov, on the other hand, has a solid takedown game that he doesn't use as much as he should, but if he leans on it here, it could be the difference. Bonfim is dangerous, but Sadykhov has the tools to neutralize him in what could be a close fight. Jose Delgado vs. Conor Matthews. I'm picking Jose Delgado to win. While I haven't seen a ton of him, what I have seen, his LFA and Contender Series fights, shows that he's comfortable on the feet and enjoys striking. He throws with power and hunts for the knockout, and in his UFC debut, he'll have the youth, height, and reach advantage over Matthews. Conor Matthews, on the other hand, was just KO'd by Denis Buzukja and hasn't shown much of a ground game. He tends to stand and trade, which I don't think will go well against a more powerful and aggressive striker like Delgado. If this stays on the feet, I see Delgado finding the finish. Edmen Shahbazyan vs. Dylan Budka. I'm picking Edmen Shahbazyan to win this fight. He's the better striker and has enough grappling experience, both offensively and off his back, to handle Dylan Budka's wrestling-heavy approach. Budka isn't particularly aggressive. He likes to circle on the outside, flicking kicks to maintain distance rather than landing with real impact. When he does engage, it's usually in clinch battles and takedowns, but he doesn't do much damage. He's more about control than finishing, often stalling against the cage or on the mat. While he showed slightly more willingness to engage in his last fight against Andrei Petroski, it wasn't a drastic change. Against Shahbazyan, who has more dynamic striking and is dangerous in exchanges, that kind of passive approach likely won't be enough. I see Shahbazyan picking him apart and avoiding prolonged grappling exchanges. Rodolfo Vieira vs. Andrei Petroski. I'm picking Rodolfo Vieira to win this fight. He's faced opponents like Petroski before, fighters who primarily rely on striking rather than blending their wrestling with effective ground and pound. As long as Vieira sticks to his strengths, finds his own takedown, and hunts for a submission, this should be a clear win for him. Petroski is coming off a lackluster win over Dylan Budka, where he didn't show much urgency or dominance. Unless he lands a clean KO shot, I don't see a clear path for him in this fight. His wrestling is solid, but engaging in grappling exchanges with Vieira could be dangerous, and if he keeps it standing, Vieira will still have moments to close the distance and force his game. Julia Avila vs. Jacqueline Cavalcante. This fight is tough to call, but I'm hesitantly picking Jacqueline Cavalcante. She's a young, up-and-coming fighter who should be in a good spot to gain more experience and add another win to her record. However, there are some red flags that make this pick shaky. Cavalcante went to a decision with a 41-year-old Zara Farn, which isn't a great look. When she fought Josie Nunez, a short, stocky striker similar to Julia Avila, she struggled in a split decision win, getting caught in messy exchanges. Another split decision against Nora Cornell is more understandable, but it still raises questions about her ability to dominate fights. Despite Avila being 37, shorter, and having a reach disadvantage, this fight could be a trap. She fights rarely but prefers stand-up battles, which she'll get here. The Miesha Tate fight made her look bad, but watching her other fights, her wrestling defense seemed better before. That loss looks suspicious, almost like she didn't show up to win. I see this as more of a pick-em fight rather than one with a clear favorite. If Avila shows up motivated, she could surprise people. But Cavalcante's youth and volume give her the slight edge. Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith. I'm picking Vince Morales in this matchup. He has far more experience against high-level competition, having fought in the UFC, left, and made his way back, which says a lot about his durability and skill set. At 34 years old, he's still in his prime and has a well-rounded game, both on the feet and on the ground. On the other hand, Elijah Smith's competition hasn't been impressive. He's fought a mix of low-level opponents, cans, and a few decent ones, but nothing on Morales' level. His Contender Series fight against Aaron Tao was questionable. I personally thought he lost. His opponent was goofing off, showboating, and still landing clean shots, even rocking him at times. That fight was way too close for comfort, yet Smith still got the decision. Against someone like Morales, who has fought proven names, that kind of performance won't cut it. Walter Walker versus Dante Mays. In this fight, I'm picking Walter Walker. While his striking is serviceable, his real strength lies in his ability to stay composed on the feet just long enough to set up takedowns, something he's executed well in his last two fights. On the other hand, Dante Mays is primarily a stand-up fighter, but he's consistently struggled on the ground, especially when it comes to getting back to his feet, as seen in multiple fights, most notably against Shamo Gaziv. If Walker sticks to a smart game plan and secures early control, this should be a clear path to victory for him. Gabriel Bonfim versus Caos Williams. I'm picking Gabriel Bonfim in this matchup. While both fighters have serious power, Bonfim is the more technical striker, which should give him the edge. Caos Williams is explosive, but he often relies on raw athleticism rather than refined technique. In his fight against Rolando Bedoya, a technical stand-up battle, Caos was consistently countered and picked apart by the sharper striker, and I see a similar scenario unfolding here. On top of that, Bonfim may also have the advantage on the ground, given his strong submission record. If he chooses to mix in grappling, it could give him an even clearer path to victory. Rafael Estevam versus Jesus Aguilar. I'm backing Rafael Estevam in this matchup, largely due to his dominant wrestling and jiu-jitsu. In his last fight against Charles Johnson, he showed he could take a solid opponent down and control him for extended periods. That kind of grappling-heavy style should serve him well here. That said, I'm not a fan of the -300 odds. This fight could be much closer than the line suggests. Jesus Aguilar is dangerous with his power, and has a signature guillotine choke that could spell disaster if Estevam shoots in recklessly. One mistake, and Aguilar can snatch the finish in an instant. Estevam should get the job done, but Aguilar is a live underdog with clear paths to victory. This one could be closer than the odds imply. Angela Hill versus Ketlin Souza. I'm taking Ketlin Souza in this one. She's the new blood in the division and has already shown serious power and a killer instinct. Look no further than her fight against Yasmin Yoregi. She dropped her with a hook and immediately secured the rear naked choke for the finish. That kind of aggression and fight-ending ability gives her the edge here. That said, Angela Hill is as battle-tested as they come. With a 17-14 record, she's proven time and time again that she can push the pace, make fights competitive, and test rising contenders. She's well-rounded and definitely live in this matchup. But in a fight that could come down to damage and finishing ability, I lean towards Souza to make a statement. Jared Gordon versus Mashurjan Ruziboev. I'm siding with Jared Gordon in this one. He's already deep into fight camp, which gives him a conditioning and preparation edge, especially since his original opponent pulled out. His UFC experience speaks for itself. He's faced high-level competition and proven he can hang with the best. Ruziboev is a wild card, but I haven't seen anything that screams he's the clear favorite here. Unless he brings something unexpected, I see Gordon's well-rounded skill set and fight IQ leading him to victory.